Hey everyone, I'm Noamori Gaming, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to Monster Legends. Welcome to the tier series where we are trying to find out who are the best of the best mythic monsters in particular segments. So in this particular episode, we are looking at deniers, and more specifically, we are looking at possession monsters. Now realistically, there are only two mythic monsters that can possess, specifically AoE possession. There's a few handful that can do single possession, but we are only looking at the monsters that can do possession AoE deny. So with that being said, let's jump right into it, starting things off with the first monster that was released that can do possession, Vandecken. If you've never heard of this monster, I've never seen this monster, I'm not surprised. This is not a monster I really see too often. But with that being said, Vandecken is our first monster to look at. Our second monster to look at is Asta, as you can see from the thumbnail. So when it comes to stats, we'll start off with that. This monster has a power of 5280. This is the higher of the two monsters. When it comes to life stats, 57,907. This is the lower of the two monsters. And when it comes to the speed stat, hey, both monsters are actually tied. They both have 4840. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be an easy analysis for the possession deny monsters. When it comes to the traits, evolving trait, at rank 0 you are immune to blind, which does help you against monsters that can do total blind. Savar, Ilian, and Kralik come to mind, and there's a few handful that can do AoE blind or single blinds. At rank 1 you have the sunburn immunity, which it's not, I don't like when a monster just has a single immunity to a single torture. I would love a hardened trait, I would have loved an immune to torture, would have been phenomenal. But I guess if you are going to be immune to one of the tortures, it should either be curse or sunburn. And I think when it comes to deniers, it's better for them to be immune to sunburn because sunburn actually reduces your accuracy. So I guess I can give them that. And at rank 3, you actually get a cooldown immunity to yourself, I believe. I don't think this is a team one. So when I think of the monster that can do CDA, you have Gardevoir, you have Glamhead, you have Siamese. Tremor has a single cooldown activation as well. I don't think there's any others, at least no one that comes to mind. So honestly, the cooldown immunity doesn't help too much, I would say. I mean, if anything, if you are in that situation where you are going up against Gardevoir, Glamhead, or Tremor, it is helpful that you can find it, that you have the cooldown immunity. But then when you look at it, Tremor can do a stun as well. Siamese and Glamhead, they can both do a possession. So, again, it doesn't really help you out too much as a status caster cooldown immunity. Alright, now we have Asta, and I already mentioned this monster when comparing Vandecken stats because, I mean, there's only two monsters I'm comparing. So the power is 5192. It's a lower power than that of Vandecken. The life stat is 60,320, so this is the higher life stat, way higher, right? Vandecken was like 57k, and then the speed stat, they are both tied. So when it comes to deniers, the stat that matters the most is the speed stat, which both monsters are tied. The next stat that would matter would be the life stat, because you want the monster to have survivability, to be tanky, and in this case, Asta wins because he has 60k compared to 57k. Not to say Vandecken is bad, just comparing these two monsters, this monster wins. As for the power stat, it doesn't really matter. Deniers are there to deny, not to attack. If anything, you'll notice they'll just have a lot of torture or support skills. When it comes to the trait on this monster, unranked has immune to stun, a permanent immunity to stun. So this helps you against Tremor, Moonhaze, Cat UFO, Vastas, and Unspeakable. They have single skills. Everyone else I mentioned, Tremor, Moonhaze, Cat UFO, they have AoE stun. But once again, even Tremor, he can activate cooldowns. Moonhaze can do possession. So you're not completely safe, right? Even against those monsters. At rank 1, you have immune to poison. Again, I am not a fan of an immune to torture, especially one as simple as poison. It doesn't really protect you too much. It reduces damage output and damages you. Again, you're not an attacker, so in this case, immune to sunburn would have been better. At rank 3, you do have a self-precision, and when it comes to a denier, specifically a denier that is going to do possession, the increased accuracy is amazing. You want to make sure it lands. You want to make sure you deny the enemy. So, I think when it comes to the traits, we have a clear winner. When it comes to the traits, this monster wins, and when it comes to the stats, this monster actually wins as well because of the tied speed with the higher life stats. Alright, let's talk relics. Vandecken can hold 2 trap relics. Not too many monsters can hold 2 of the same relic. So with being able to hold 2 relics, for one, if you have Nebuline's trap, it is an upgraded Oblation trap. That is amazing. But if you have only an Oblation trap, you can just equip 2 Oblation traps on this monster, and it'll basically have that same effect, right? After being damaged by the Scalp Boar's life is below 50%, it removes 108. If you have 2 of them equipped, that'll be 216 stamina points removed from the enemy. So in situations where you're attacked and you are like below 50%, you can drain a lot of stamina thanks to your double trap relic. With Asta, on the other hand, we have access to the mask relic, so there are so many things you can do with the mask relic. Let's just take a look at some of them. So if we take a look at Jazzstar's Mask, after damaging with a skill, if target stamina is above 75%, you actually remove stamina points from the enemy. And don't forget that you can actually put a staff relic. If you put the Pump Seed Staff, you can essentially do like 100% stamina drain from the enemy, because when this is fully maxed out, it drains like 140 stamina points, something like that. So that is insane. You can pull that off. Going back to the masks, you could also do something like Telling's Mask to give all of your team an armor. You can do Watt's Mask if you want to drain stamina from all the enemies. I think this is when you're damaged. After being damaged by a skill, if the wearer is under control status effect. Let's see what else we have. Eotron's Mask, after being damaged by a skill, you remove stamina from the attacker and you heal. So you have a lot of flexibility with the mask. And as I already mentioned, you can do Pump Seed Staff, but even more importantly, you can even do Cane of Atlantis. So in those specific situations where you're slower than the enemy and you're going to get stamina drained, maybe you face Ondana. Ondana is the queen of stamina drain. If you get stamina drained and you're next in the turn order, hey, Cane of Atlantis kicks in, your whole team has stamina now, and then you can do your possession skill. And if you didn't get your status caster self-position removed, then you're going to be able to possess all of the enemy team. So I like the flexibility of Asta more. I love the Cane of Atlantis or Pump Seed Staff combo with Jazzstar's Mask. So totally depends on you. When it comes to Relics, I think this is a clear winner. And so far, he has been our clear winner. Alright, let's talk skills. The most interesting thing about this monster right now is the fact that he actually has dark-based attacks and fire-based attacks. So, you know, we've seen quite a few of those monsters, quite a few mythics that have several elemental attacks. So Van Decken is one of them. So let's see what we have. We have Cruel and Hot's 0 cooldown skill. So this monster, if he does get hit with CDA, he at least has 0 cooldown skill he can do that does burning. We have Wild and Strong, deals heavy dark damage, supplies nightmares to an enemy. This one is interesting because it is 0 stamina, 1 turn cooldown. So you have a heavy dark attack that doesn't require any stamina if you were to get stamina drained. You have Smoked Anton, which deals heavy fire damage to when enemy applies burn and nightmares. So as you can see, a denier monster typically having dot skills. And we have Elvid's Fire, deals moderate fire damage to when enemy applies major damage reduction. This reduces the damage output by 50%, so specifically to be used against attackers, so they don't really damage you with a lot of damage. We have Kidnap Saint. This is your AoE deny skill. This is AoE possession plus nightmares. Nightmares will actually remove stamina from the enemy. I believe it's 10% for 3 turns. Yeah, it removes 10% of stamina on 1 turn for the next 3 turns. Alright, we also have Find the Treasure, which applies total damage reduction. This is kind of like a deny against attackers, because whatever attack the attacker does in terms of damage output, it is going to be a big fat 0. And this monster can also apply possession and double damage to the enemy monster. So this would be the kind of skill you do against the enemy attacker. You know, if they can be possessed, you possess them and you give them double damage. And then that monster attacks its own team, and you potentially could win the battle, right? Can you imagine taking possession of a Brutalizer? Such a strong monster, and you give him double damage, and he attacks his own team. Now, the problem with that is if the enemy monster has Hardened or Tough, it's very possible you give him the double damage, and the possession doesn't land, and then they just use that double damage against you. So you have to be careful with that. And then we have an AoE major damage reduction. Again, this one is the 50% less damage, not to be confused with total damage reduction, which is 100% damage reduction. So overall, he has an AoE possession and a single possession that gives double damage to the enemy, and the total damage reduction in terms of his skill set. Alright, now let's look at Asta's skill set. We have Ketsamal, which deals low nature damage, applies possession to all enemies, so your AoE possession skill. You have Hypnosis. This is cool because it applies possession twice to an enemy, so if the first possession doesn't land, possibly the second possession will land. This is super useful against monsters that have Hardened or Tough, right? We have Jade Absorption. This deals moderate nature damage, applies poison and damage reduction. So, unlike Van Decken that has major damage reduction, you have a damage reduction, but again, the poison will also reduce damage output. So it's not quite 50%, but it is a good attempt to reduce damage output from the enemy team. Let's see what else we have. We have Piety Please. This is the only monster, if I'm not mistaken, to have that pyrophobic shield. It makes it so you can only take damage from the fire elements. Now, unfortunately for you, the fire element is your weakness, but if you are facing no fire monster, the enemy is not going to be able to attack you unless they remove your shield. And you also give yourself immunity to torture, which means if they try to kill you with a dot, hey, for the next 3 turns, you are protected from all torture effects. So that is pretty cool. Aside from that, you also have Rock Hard, which removes negative effects from itself and gives yourself true vision so you don't miss your attacks. You have Flying Punch, which deals very low nature damage, and it gives you an extra churn. It also poisons. So it's just a way to kind of lower the cooldowns on these by 1, I would say. Right, let's see what else we have. More Than a Gemstone, AoE Poison, and we have Quetzalcoatl, a spawnable skill. So as you can see, for whatever reason, the possession monsters the possession mythic monsters, they're not really anything too crazy or fancy. If I had to choose a better skill set, it's tough. It's tough because they both have possession. One of them, Van Decken, has possession with double damage, which I can see how it could work for you, but I also see how it could work against you. Again, if you don't land the possession, but you give the enemy free double damage. Whereas with Asta, he actually does double possession, so you can pretty much guarantee that possession is landing, not even counting the fact that his trait is a self-precision, so for sure you're going to be landing. So I think there's more chance for you to miss with Van Decken than with this monster because of the self-precision. And then what I like about Van Decken is that total damage reduction, whereas with Asta he can just reduce damage by a good amount, but it is not a total damage reduction. So it's a tough one for me. I think you could go either way. I think you could argue one skill set is better than the other. I'm going to give it to Asta for the double possession. When I think of Deny Monster, I want to be 100% sure that I am landing or as close to 100% as possible, and I think he offers that more than Van Decken can. And also that Pyrophobic Shield is interesting for keeping himself alive. And he also has that extra turn skill, which I can definitely see being used to, again, reduce damage output on a little bit, maybe just damage the monster enough so that you can, you know, that poison kills it. I don't know. I just feel like this monster has a more diverse skill set, and you can probably pull off some better stuff than you can with Van Decken. And then we have the ultimates. Enslaved Pirate deals moderate special damage to enemies, removes positive effects from all enemies, possession, and ignite. I mean, I love when you can remove positive effects, and then you possess, and then you ignite. You literally get everything. Positive effect removal, you have deny, and you have a torture, right? And you even have damage output as well. Although the damage output is before the positive effect removal. And then with the Asta, we have deals heavy special damage to enemies, applies stun and daze to enemies. So it is just an AoE stun, AoE daze. I think this one is easy. This is one that it actually goes to Van Decken. Van Decken easily takes this one for the ults, right? Enslaved Pirate. But overall, I think we have a clear winner when it comes to the mythic possession monsters. Asta should be your number one choice. He overall is better. When you look at the relic slots, when you look at the stats, when you look at the skills, overall, you should take this monster if you're planning to rank up a monster that is specifically possession. Personally, I don't recommend it. Reviewing these two monsters was kind of like, why should I even make this video? There's only two of them. They're not even that great. It's no reason we don't really see them. But again, we are going through all of the best mythics in specific categories, so we had to go over the Denier AoE possessors, and so now you know. If you have to pick one, Asta is the way to go, but they're not really that great. So with that being said, guys, that is going to be it for this video. Please let me know in the comments below, what do you think about it? Do you disagree? Do you agree? Any and all thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much, and remember to subscribe.